Winged creatures soaring through the skies. Shadowy figures lurking in the woods. And monsters rising from the depths of the sea. Most dismiss them as myths, but what if they're not?
The skeleton looked sort of human-like, only much bigger and a little stranger. Next thing you know, bada boom, bada bing, bada bam, you have a Cyclops.
Today, we're digging into the legends that refuse to fade. And the bizarre encounters that could be keeping them alive. They've always been beautiful and deadly. Mermaids, sirens, sea maidens. Every seafaring culture has them half human, half fish, with a song that could lure you to the bottom. But here's something many don't know. One of the earliest mermaid legends came from Syria, around 1000 BC. The goddess Atargatis dove into a lake after accidentally killing a human. She wanted to become a fish out of shame, but the gods wouldn't let her give up her beauty. Only her lower half transformed. Even Christopher Columbus wrote about seeing mermaids. He said they rose from the water, but weren't quite as pretty as stories claimed. Experts believe he likely saw manatees. Still, not everyone thinks mermaids are myths. To this day, some believe they sing from rocky shores, luring fishermen with their voices. And when the boat drifts close enough, they strike, pulling the unlucky soul down to the dark.
I believe that water mama has took him away. One of them mermaids and carry here.
What does the water mama look like?
They are people. Like a fish tail, and they have long hair.
And what color?
White people's skin.
Maybe it's just legend, or maybe, in the vastness of the sea, something ancient still swims below. Indus worm. Back in the day, over 2,000 years ago, the Greeks had a strange story going around. They believed a massive worm slithered through the Indus River, and it wasn't just some bedtime myth. They were convinced Indians hunted this thing to collect oil that could catch fire. Now, if you're thinking that it's totally unhinged, you're not alone. Today, there's absolutely zero evidence of this creature. No bones, sightings, or anything like it. But there was another giant crawling across Earth millions of years ago. Its name was Arthropleura. It wasn't a worm, but a millipede, 2.6 meters long, roughly the width of a school bus. It slithered the ground long before dinosaurs ever roared. Maybe ancient people found a few bizarre fossils lying in river sediment, ending in a wild theory, a fire-breathing legend born from real-world curiosity. Centaur. Humans have domesticated animals as beasts of burden for thousands of years, and horses have changed everything. Warfare, travel, trade. They've carried us through history and inspired some pretty strange legends, but none are quite like the Centaur. Half man, half horse. But how did this half-human horse even become a thing? Turns out, the myth may have started in Thessaly, home to nomadic horsemen, elite riders with no saddles. To the Greeks, who rarely saw that kind of control, it looked like one creature.
If you will lead us, then my sons and I offer you our swords.
Man and beast fused. That image stuck, and over time, it evolved into myth. Over time, that image turned into a myth. Centaurs became symbols of wilderness, instinct, and rebellion. These days, they're calmer, wise, noble fantasy fan favorites. But one thing still raises eyebrows. The University of Tennessee has an ancient centaur on display, sparking debate. Could it be an art piece, a hoax, or a chance they actually exist? Dragon. Big, fire-breathing dragons. They're just beasts from fairy tales and fantasy fiction, right? But here's the weird part. Almost every ancient civilization has a version of them. The Chinese, the Norse, even the Aztecs. Coincidence or something more? In Europe, dragons were monsters. Winged, clawed, fire-spitting nightmares. But in East Asia, they were elegant, snake-like, symbols of wisdom and power. In China, dragons ranked higher than real animals, tied directly to emperors. It's the only mythical creature on their calendar. That says a lot. So here's the real question. If dragons were never real, why do so many cultures describe the same thing? Some think people once lived alongside dragon-like animals. Others say it started with fossils, giant skulls with fangs. What else would you call that besides dragon? In Sichuan, China, people were talking about dragon bones over 2,000 years ago. They didn't know dinosaurs existed, but they knew these weren't ordinary animals. Some believe dragons were distant cousins of real animals, like gliding lizards or the terrifying dragon snake. If they ever existed, they probably vanished like the dinosaurs. Kraken.
A creature long thought to be a sea monster has been caught on camera for the first time since it was identified about a century ago. The giant squid, the heaviest invertebrate in the world, has been filmed alive in the wild for the first time since its discovery.
You're out at sea. The water is calm. Then the surface starts to bubble. Something starts to rise. By the time you see the tentacles, it's already too late. The Kraken wasn't just some oversized octopus. We're talking island-sized. Tentacles thick as trees. To Norse sailors, this thing wasn't a legend. It was a warning. They believed it dragged ships down whole. Turns out they weren't entirely wrong. The giant squid is real, over 40 feet long, beak like a parrot. For centuries, we only had scars on whales and on sailors. Then, in the early 2000s, we finally got it on camera. Is the Kraken real? Maybe not exactly, but the ocean still hides things we haven't met. It covers 80% of Earth, and we've barely scratched the surface. Leviathan. Lately, videos have been going viral. Dark ocean footage, strange shadows, massive waves, and one word keeps showing up in the comments: Leviathan. People swear it's real. Others say it's just another sea monster myth. But this creature isn't new. The earliest mention of the Leviathan appears over 1,600 years ago in the Old Hebrew Bible. It was described as a monstrous sea serpent, so huge, so powerful that even gods feared it. But this isn't just a Hebrew tale. Nearly every ancient culture speaks of something like it. So how is it that civilizations oceans apart describe the same thing? Turns out, something like the Leviathan may have actually existed. Roughly 50 million years ago, there swam a creature named Peleophis colosseus, a prehistoric sea snake so massive it could reach up to 14 meters long, roughly the size of a modern school bus, but alive, agile, and perfectly adapted to the ocean depths. They were real, breathing sea serpents of their time, and one theory suggests that some relatives or subspecies of Peleophis may have survived long after their supposed extinction, hiding deep in uncharted parts of the ocean, only rarely surfacing, just enough to give terrified sailors a story they'd never forget. And maybe those stories grew, evolved, and eventually gave us the Leviathan. Because let's not forget, the Kraken was once just a tale too, until scientists discovered the colossal squid. So what happens if Leviathan isn't just myth, but memory? Ningen. In the early 2000s, Japanese sailors reported something strange gliding through the icy waters near Antarctica. A pale, massive creature with long limbs, smooth white skin, and the lower body of a mermaid. They called it the Ningen. Photos and videos began surfacing soon after, but their authenticity has always been questioned. And yet, one question still lingers. Could something like the Ningen still exist in modern-day Antarctica, one of the least explored places on Earth? Some researchers believe Ningen sightings may trace back to Thalassocnus, an aquatic ground sloth with long arms used for swimming. Fossils of this creature have mostly been found in Chile and Argentina, the closest landmass to Antarctica. Another possibility is the extinct shark Aquilolomna, with massive, wing-like fins and an eerie resemblance to Ningen. It's believed to have vanished 66 million years ago, but some shark species have survived far longer than that. So maybe the legend isn't just ice and rumor. Maybe it's something prehistoric, still out there. Bloop. In 1997, a strange sound echoed through the largest ocean on Earth, the Pacific. Take a listen. Scientists were puzzled. At the time, they believed that such a powerful sound could only come from a massive sea creature, and for it to be that loud, it would have to be 100 times the size of a blue whale. And just like that, the myth of the Bloop was born. But years later, researchers revealed it was actually caused by massive icebergs cracking and melting in Antarctica. Still, with how little we've explored the ocean, would it really be that surprising if a creature like the Bloop actually existed? After all, in the Jurassic period, there was a shark called Leviathan, the largest fish to ever exist. And when it opened its mouth lined with 40,000 teeth, it looked exactly like something pulled from a nightmare. Or maybe from legend. Cyclops. A giant man with just one eye. Seems like something pulled from a fantasy novel, right? But tales of Cyclopes go back over 3,000 years. First appearing in Greek myths like the Odyssey, where Odysseus outsmarts the cannibal Polyphemus in a dark, sheep-filled cave.
Where are your parents?
Our mother is a sea nymph. Our father is the mighty god Poseidon. I am the youngest, Polyphemus. What did you bring?
Gifts. We thought that if you would share some sheep, we could cook you a feast.
But here's the twist. Cyclops myths aren't just Greek. Versions of it appear in France, Turkey, and Estonia. So why this one-eyed giant everywhere? Well, it might have less to do with monsters, and more to do with misunderstood bones. Ancient Greeks may have stumbled upon fossilized skulls of extinct elephants, massive trunked creatures like Deinotherium or dwarf mammoths, whose skulls featured a huge nasal cavity right in the middle of the forehead. To someone who'd never seen an elephant before, that could look like a giant eye socket. One simple misread of nature, and the Cyclops was born. Over time, the image softened, from terrifying giant to gullible brute to comic relief. But even now, that one eye still stares back from myth, fossils, and story, as if it's still watching. Unicorn. Most people assume the unicorn is a product of Western mythology, something born from medieval fairy tales and fantasy books. But surprisingly, the earliest depictions of this horned creature were found not in Europe, but on ancient Indus Valley seals dating back over 4,000 years. Long before castles and scrolls, the idea of a one-horned beast was already being carved into stone. Many still treat unicorns as pure myth, yet a few discoveries have hinted otherwise. Fossils claim to show horse-like animals with a single horn. And while those claims are debated, there was once a creature that makes the unicorn seem a little less impossible. Elasmotherium, an Ice Age giant, part of the rhinoceros family, but closely related to horses. With a horn so large it stretched nearly the height of a full-grown human, it holds the record for the largest horned animal ever known. They vanished due to climate shifts and modern humans. But maybe the unicorn wasn't entirely fiction. Maybe it was just a rhino, remembered with a bit of magic. Cerberus. A dog so massive it had 3 snarling heads and a breath said to scorch the earth. That's how ancient Greeks described Cerberus, the terrifying hound of the underworld. First mentioned in texts by Homer and Hesiod as far back as the 8th century BCE, Cerberus wasn't just a monster. He was a gatekeeper. His job was to make sure no soul escaped Hades. But then came strange reports from a small Italian town. Locals near ancient catacombs claimed they saw something unnatural, a creature with multiple heads, moving fast and without a sound. They're still convinced it wasn't of this world. Of course, science hasn't found a Cerberus, but animals with two faces, they exist. Conjoined twins, genetic mutations, fused skulls. So maybe Cerberus didn't guard the dead, but something real might have inspired the myth. A rare creature, a brief sighting, and a story that outlived time. The Rake.
Oh, frick.
It's not the screamers that haunt us most, it's the ones that just stare, pale, skeletal, with arms too long for its frame. The Rake has no voice and no clear intent, just black, watching eyes. Reports started spreading online in the mid-2000s, people waking up to find it crouched at the foot of their bed or standing still in a dark corner. It never moved, but they all said the same thing. It knew they were awake. Sightings mostly come from North America, often near forests, desolate roads, or crumbling houses.
Oh, he's literally... Holy... Where?
Some say they hear faint whispers, a language that doesn't belong anywhere. Experts call it a modern myth, born of internet fear and digital campfire tales. But the descriptions are eerily consistent, even across people who've never met. Could the Rake be a symbol? A shared image our minds create to explain the fear that comes when we're alone, and the dark feels just a little too quiet. Moth Man. Point Pleasant, West Virginia, a small town now famous for something much bigger. In 1966, locals began reporting a terrifying figure, part man, part bird, with glowing red eyes and a wingspan over 10 feet. For over a year, hundreds claimed to see it, gliding through forests, perched on buildings, even stalking cars near the TNT area. Then came tragedy. December 15th, 1967. The Silver Bridge collapsed, causing casualties. Some believe the Moth Man caused it. Others think he came to warn them. Explanations vary wildly. Mass hysteria, mutant crane, explosives dumped in the area. But the sightings never stopped. In fact, they spread from Point Pleasant to Chicago. Even whispered about before disasters like Chernobyl. Today, Mothman is both a myth and mascot. There's a museum, a statue, and an annual festival that draws thousands. Maybe it was just a bird, maybe a hoax. Siren Head. It started with a story. A couple near a cemetery claimed they saw something tall and unnatural. A body like a rotting pole, a neck stretching high, and a head made of two massive sirens, buzzing with strange sounds. But that sighting was made up, part of the original lore introduced by Canadian horror artist Trevor Henderson, who created Siren Head in a chilling piece of art. But then, it went viral. From games to memes to creepy videos, Siren Head exploded across the internet, with a horror movie featuring the same title. And while science says a creature like this can't exist, nature has pulled off stranger things. Just look at the Tully monster, found in fossils over 300 million years old. Its eyes were mounted on stalks. Its mouth sat far from its body. And to this day, scientists still don't know what it was. Maybe Siren Head is just fiction, or maybe it's a memory of nature's weirdest creation. Willow the Wisp. They've been spotted dancing across marshes, glowing blue and strangely still, silent flames hovering just above the ground. Known as Willow the Wisps, they've haunted folklore for centuries. In some tales, they're mischievous spirits. In others, lost souls, fairies, or even ghostly lanterns of the dead. Follow one, and you might find treasure, or vanish into the bog. Reported from Europe to Australia, these lights were long dismissed as myth. But science has an eerie theory: swamp gas. Methane released from decaying plants might spontaneously ignite, creating cold, flickering flames. And yes, methane burns blue. So what were they? Tricksters? Nature's accident? Or a phenomenon we no longer see because we've drained the very places they once called home? One thing's certain: the Willow the Wisp hasn't fully vanished. It just waits, like it always has, somewhere just out of reach. Thank you very much for watching the video. Do like and share it with your friends. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to not miss any of the upcoming amazing videos. Thank you once again.